to the least qualified man. So we need a fighter, and that fighter is Patrick Aarons. You know, when he was going to De Anza College as a student, he was living in his car, and he was facing tremendous adversity. And adversity brings vulnerability. And Patrick, unlike many others, didn't fall to the demons of defeat. Instead, he took that vulnerability and he changed it, transformed it to courage, conviction, and victory. He went on to get elected to the De Anza College Board and led the fight for student housing. I know that Patrick will always fight with us, fight for us, and Patrick Aarons will always be our friend. So I am proud.
Well, let's give it up for Mary David, everyone. It's so great to see all of you here today to celebrate our very first Woman of the Year, Angelica Ramos. Long overdue. Angelica, your accomplishments are great. I first met Angelica many, many years ago, over a long time ago. I won't say how long, but we've been doing this a long time. And one thing is for sure is that Angelica, you are a North Star to so many people who have advocated not only for greater representation, greater equity, but a champion for children and families. And that not only through good public policy, but for better representation. And so the choice was obvious as soon as I got elected, who would be our first Woman of the Year. And I'm just so fortunate to know you and intimately and know the work that you've done for Santa Clara County and the state of California. Yes. We have, as you can see, a lot of amazing women leaders in this room. If you are an elected official, will you please stand just so the room can see? I think we have over 65 women elected officials in this room. Thank you. And it's not enough, as Angelica would remind me. It won't be enough until we have 100% representation by women, as Angelica would remind me. And so, with us to give a quick recognition is we have representatives from County Supervisor Otto Lee's office, County Supervisor Susan Ellenberg's office, County Supervisor Betty Young's office, and we have our County Supervisor Sylvia Arenas here to give a special recognition to Angelica. If the offices and the supervisor will please join me up front.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh my gosh, I don't think we've had enough of the Maggiano's good food. Good afternoon, everyone. Awesome. I'm Sylvia Arenas. I used to say I'm the newest member of the County Board of Supervisors, but I don't get to say that anymore because we have two wonderful.
I would like to bring up a woman who needs no introduction, a champion for labor and working families who is not afraid to get into the arena and be unapologetic in supporting good candidates. The majority of them happen to be the most qualified, which are women. And I'd like to bring up just a champion and a mentor for so many of us, the Executive Officer of the South Bay Labor Council, Jean Cohen.
Thank you so much. happy that Assemblymember Patrick Gittern is here to represent all of us. Let's give him a round of applause. As the executive officer of the South Bay Labor Council, I have the opportunity to work with not only elected officials, but policymakers and allies and lobbyists and advocates. And I also have the opportunity, as many of us do, to have overlap in our lives in the Venn diagram of friends and colleagues who end up being family and friends. And during COVID, I had one of my COVID pods was Patrick and Angelica, and it was just really a great opportunity to be reminded and to be surrounded by people who not only care about each other, but use their privilege to help other people all the time, and remind all of us that it's our responsibility to do that. So I was just thinking of a few ideas or words around Angelica that I wanted to share, and one is that she's always a champion, and she's always an ally and a spokesperson for people who don't have a voice, no matter who's in the room. And so you always have the comfort of knowing that she's going to always speak up and do the right thing. And I don't know that there's such a thing as fearlessness as there's working through the fear to be a leader and to do the right thing. And I think she embodies that all the time. And I'm so grateful for that, for holding all of us accountable for being better. I also think that there's something to be said about doing the work. And so people have a lot of ideas and suggestions and criticisms, and they're happy to share those on a regular basis with all of us. But it's really hard to actually pivot from that to solutions and to problem solving and to collaboration with people who don't always necessarily have the same ideas and values, but who want to find success in working together. And I think Angelica embodies all of that. And so on behalf of the Labor Council, it's such an honor to say thank you for being a leader. Thank you to our Assembly member for joining us. And thank you for all of you for reminding us how lucky we are at this critical moment in this country to be part of the family of Santa Clara County. Thank you.
All right, let's give another round of applause for Jean Cohen. Thank you, Jean. Before I bring up our keynote, I'd just also like to recognize this year's honoree for the other assembly district next door, but a dear friend of mine, the indomitable force that has reemerged San Jose State as our global leader when it comes to showing Silicon Valley where the real workforce comes from, and that's our very own Spartan San Jose State President Cynthia Teniente Matson, who's here today. And Assemblyman Washington's Woman of the Year. Thank you, Madam President, for joining us. Next up, I'd like to bring up a dear friend of Angelica's and mine, and so many in this room. She has been a good steward of our taxpayer dollars, fighting in the state of California on the Board of Equalization, and as our state controller, and as our vice chair of the Democratic Party, never, ever sacrificing our democratic values and putting women on the map to not only train, lead, recruit, and run for elected office, but really embodies what it means to be a servant leader. Can you please give a big round of Silicon Valley round of applause for Betty Yee?
Thank you so much, Patrick, and good afternoon. So I wish I could have taken a panorama of all of the elected women who stood up along with it. And it's a beautiful sight, but as we know, there is much more work to do. And all of you who stood up, thank you for paving the way continually as we look at how we continue to increase our representation. Patrick, I just have to say, we all know Patrick, and I just have to say with respect to the kind of leader that he is, just so accessible, and I'm just going to say this, authentic and real. Those things begin to adequately describe you. And when you can bring all of your true self to being in office and leading and serving, we know that you're going to be able to deliver good results that will uplift the lives of so many people. So thank you so much for just being who you are and being the leader that you are in the State Assembly. Really, so thank you. Before I get into my remarks, because I just want to say to the Ramos family, congratulations. This is really always just such a wonderful occasion to celebrate you, to celebrate what I know have been sacrifices, and to celebrate just the leadership that people really look up to in terms of these young women who are serving. And we had a chance to celebrate Emily earlier in her election, successful election. And today with Angelica, let me just say with Angelica, I'm a policy wonk and I'm kind of a financial geek. And to just see someone who understands that good policy can make for good politics is really heartwarming. Because it says to me that when we keep that compass, we're going to do just fine by our communities. And I know all of you who are serving here in your respective elected offices, this work is hard. This work is really hard. And so to be in community together this afternoon, to celebrate one of our leaders, and to know that we have each other's back as we do this really tough work, especially during these times that we'll talk about in a moment, really matters. And so thank you to all of you. Give yourselves a round of applause. And Angelica, I know we have much that we're going to be doing together in terms of getting those numbers up, so we will work on that together. So I'm really pleased to be here because, as I think about, obviously, we're here celebrating Women's History Month, and that is always a good occasion to think about, yes, always those who come before us. And I was thinking about the theme of Women's History Month this year, where it's about how we are moving forward together, but also how we're educating and inspiring generations. And usually when we talk about generations, we think about how we pass it forward. And actually now when I think about generations, I think about how do we look at what's come before us, and how do we look at the generation in which we are in. Because there's so much coming at us that is actually testing kind of what our purpose and our true compass really is today. And when I think about how hard that is sometimes, all I have to do is just look for the inspiration around us. And there's much of it in this room. I just met a young student trustee on the local school board who is just so excited and passionate about the work that she is doing. And met so many of you who've been in the arena for a very, very long time, and yet still carry that same degree of passion. And this is what it's about. This is what it's about. And for women especially, because we tend not to just look at what's in front of us and solve what's in front of us, we think about what it means for the future. And but how do we get inspired by that? We get inspired by that because we know there have been trials, and frankly there have been tests that have preceded us in this day that have been much tougher. And we are in a tough situation now. I'm not minimizing that at all. But to know that we have the confidence of knowing that we did triumph over all of that. And let me just say this in terms of what's happening today. And we know this because all of us have been part of this long journey of our movement as women. And that is, it's much easier to dismantle something than to build something up. But when we build something up, and we know that it's going to have legs and sustaining power, that is what we are going to be about, and what we will continue to be about. And so when I think about Angelica's journey, and the fact that she has been so focused on our children and our young adults and our youth, and how that is the foundation of everything that we build, to me, that just says that our future generation will be strong. But where we need to get inspiration, I think, too, is to take a look at what has happened before us. And I know for me, my inspiration is my simply 102-year-old mother, it's a blessing, it really is. I'm a part-time caregiver for her, my 4 sisters, and what I really see in her is someone who's lived over a century. And I remember talking to her the day after the election last November. And I said, Mom, how are you feeling about the election? And she looked at me straight in the eye, she paused for a moment, and she just said in Chinese to me, we know what we have to do. We know what we have to do. This is somebody who grew up poor in a Chinese village, was able to have an immigration experience here in the United States, similar to many among us, that similar story of the immigrant experience. But also just never any time to kind of just like luxuriate about, well, what happens next? It's about surviving. It's about understanding that people in our communities are struggling. It's about knowing that if we are not kind of engaged and really activated to try to uplift the conditions of life and economic health for those around us, that we're missing so many opportunities. And so we are not at a time where I think we can despair. And that was really her message to me. It was like, get out there, don't wallow. There are a lot of people who really are counting on us. And so I take my inspiration from her. But I'd like to think that also that, when we think about these times today, that this too shall pass. I mean, there's sayings in each of our cultures where I think, there's that idea that, yes, this is the hardest time that we may be experiencing right now, that this too shall pass. But it's really, how are we going to be able to look back at this time in terms of what we did? And what I hope we can say about this time is that we did not sit on the sidelines, that we were not silent, and that we woke up every day just doing everything we can to be sure that the trajectory of this country, where truly our democracy is at stake, that we were in the arena in all the ways that we know how. And this is really, really important. And to me, women lead this. Women lead this. And we feel the impact so palpably. And a lot of it economically, look, we make 70% household decisions, when it comes to financial matters. We are the ones that are actually looking at how we kind of keep our family expenses intact. We are the ones that, frankly, are the risk takers when it comes to when things don't add up, how do we make do in terms of what we have. We are the innovators, the ones who are resourceful. We are the ones that actually go out and figure out how we're going to bring home another buck or two. I mean, this is what I've been seeing all around the state this September. And so when I see this, I really do think women have an outsized role in this. And what I particularly appreciate about elected officials like Patrick is he really creates space for that. Because oftentimes these experiences don't find a place in decision-making halls. And so when you create space for that, it just becomes this instant relationship that you have with who you represent because they can relate to you. They can relate to you. And so I think this is a time where I know last night, and I'm just going to give you this experience because I was so just really happy about this last night. I was asked to travel to Nevada City last night. And unlike Patrick and his colleagues who like to have town halls and keep everyone informed, there's a congressman in Congressional District 3 who decided that he's not going to have in-person town halls, just to inform his constituents about what is happening in Washington. He had a phone town hall that jammed up lines the night before. 25,000 people tried to get on it, which was impossible. And so last night, we decided that some of us would do our own town hall and give an update about what was going on. There was a lot that was happening yesterday. I mean, we saw the Federal Department of Education. I don't know if any of you saw this on social media, but we have our president who actually put out an invitation for the signing of the executive order to dismantle the Department of Education as if it were an invitation to an inauguration. This is not something to celebrate. And yet, all of the things that are going to be attendant to what that dismantling of that department means is going to fall heavily on many of us in this room. And I'm so glad to see our president of San Jose State here because higher education, our K-12 schools, our Title IX programs, just looking at how we are going to actually serve our students with disabilities. I mean, on and on and on. This is all going to fall on the local communities. And so the resourcefulness that we have collectively is powerful, but we also know that part of banding together is also how do we rebuild this movement to where we are strengthening our communities, we are looking at how we engage everyone so that they are a part of how we do this together, and how do we do this in a way where we are seeing emerging leaders coming out of all this work that we do so that we can see them be future elected officials making those decisions that are going to come back and accrue benefits to their communities. And so this work is, for me, very gratifying. There's not a day that I despair a lot I get pissed off, but I don't despair a lot. And I do have a saying that I'm sharing broadly because it's my mantra when things kind of get me upset, and that is, it's better to be pissed off than pissed off. So every day I get up, like yesterday, so it's exactly order, and I just kind of say to myself, okay, better be pissed off than pissed off, pissed off than pissed off. So what do I need to do? I need to go out and talk to people about what does this mean for your community. And so I was in Nevada City yesterday, and there were, Nevada City, a small city, close to 500 people came out for a town hall, in-person town hall last night. And just wanted to engage in terms of understanding what do the cuts mean so far that have taken place? What do the layouts of all of these federal employees mean, particularly in Nevada County, where you have a lot of land management professionals in the Department of the U.S. Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management, who are going to protect us from wildfires, who know how to manage our coal plants. You know, what does this mean in terms of the threat of Medi-Cal cuts, which will hit our rural counties very, very heavily here in California? And they just want information so that they know how to spread that information. And really what all of us are doing in terms of how we rebuild our communities is that, yes, information, but it's also about, unfortunately at this point, how to share factual information, how we can be the truth tellers, and how we can be the trust builders. And that's an awesome responsibility, and I hope all of you will join in taking on that responsibility, because people are really hungry for information. And they're hungry for information so they know how to activate. And it's different for every community, but the issues are the same. So when we talk about healthcare cuts, no one's going to be scared, but we know where the biggest impacts are going to be. So as I think about this time, really it's on some level, it's simple. It's staying connected, staying engaged, helping to strengthen and rebuild our communities. And it's really kind of the biggest antidote to how we rebuild our democracy, that engagement. And while this administration is so busy just dividing us, you know, sowing divisions among us, not even recognizing the humanity of some of our most vulnerable communities. You know, to think that our transgender siblings have to live in a time where it's already a really hard experience to be a transgender person, but to be dehumanized and to be, frankly, subject to more threats and bullying and the like, all coming down from the top is just unacceptable. To know that our immigrant neighbors are just really not feeling safe about being able to come and sit in this room today with all of us. You know, every action that we take is going to have an outsized role, because it's not just about what we do in our own communities. It's about how we're going to accrue value and decency and recognition for so many who just can't even be in the states that we live in right now. And this is what makes California great. People still see California, and I travel extensively internationally and here, that people still see California as a place where our diversity is our greatest strength. And that why we are a powerhouse economy is because we can do business with almost any part of the world. And we have a diverse economy because everyone comes here. They want to innovate. They like the spirit of what it means to be here in California. And I need not say any more because we're here in Silicon Valley and we won't know that. But the image of California and the reality of what is happening in California is really a disconnect right now. And that's really our challenge. How do we bridge that chasm? How do we look at bringing all this back together so that we can actually be a place where everyone feels like they belong and where economic mobility is a possibility for everyone? I'm going to end by saying this because all of you are so active, and I want to thank Jean for being here and just so many of our young leaders who understand that at the base of all of this, it's really about how do we make sure everyone feels like they are seen and heard and feel like they belong. But also, where are the opportunities? And right now, we're seeing an administration that's trying to rob opportunities so they can fall in the hands of a few rich people. Period. And so, but I think the grounding here, why I'm so happy that Angelica is being recognized today, is that it really was palpable for me growing up in a big family. I have 4 sisters and 1 brother, and for us, and for me, all the way along in terms of my public service, I always think about, you know, the sign of the maturity of a community, the sign of really the success of a society is how we are providing for our young people. And so I just want to tell this story because I think about this a lot. And it's a story about a woman who just has always had to make ends meet. A single mother, and just has a daughter, 7-year-old daughter, and always trying to figure out, she's working 2 jobs, just figuring out how to bring some extra dollars home so that she can provide for her family, her daughter. And so she decides that she's going to have a garage sale, that she doesn't really need to have all that she has, just to try to see whether she can make some extra dollars. And so on a Saturday, she's telling her daughter Zoe, look, I really need to get together for this garage sale. Can you, but mommy, I want to play. I want to go out and play. Will you play with me? And she said, well, look, here's a puzzle. Here's a puzzle of the world. Why don't you just go into the living room and work on this puzzle, and when you're finished with it, I'll go out and play with you. Thinking that she had all this time to prepare, to clean out her closet, her rooms, and just to bring everything that she wanted to sell at the garage sale. About 15 minutes later, Zoe comes back and says, Mommy, I finished the puzzle. And the mom was incredulous. How did you do that? How did you do that? It was the map of the world. And she said, Mommy, on the other side of the puzzle was a picture of a child. And when I put the child together, the world was okay. But I think about that story a lot because why are we all here? Why are we all here? You can think about that from a personal life perspective. You can think about it in terms of our service more broadly. That we are a great state here in California. We have our challenges. We have a lot of things we need to get back on track. On the other hand, we're going to be met with a lot of distractions about what we have to defend against. But I just hope that we can keep that in mind. That if we are taking steps, and just understanding that we are grounding the next generation of who we are trying to provide for, that we're going to be okay. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you to Assemblymember Ahrens for just being the thoughtful leader that he is and continues to be. And thank you to all of you for staying in the arena and committing that every day when we wake up, that we are going to do just one more extra thing to be sure that we are going to make the world okay and take care of our young people. Thanks so much.
Let's give it up for Betty Yee. Well, Betty Yee definitely speaks for me after those remarks. So thank you so much, Betty, for being here today.
All right. Flowers, please. Thank you, flower boy.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, I'm asking for my flower boy. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my husband and partner, Peter Allen. Many of you may or may not know this. He did spend a year home with our daughter because we did not have childcare at that time. Now I do. Thank you, Veronica. But I also want to acknowledge former Controller Betty Yee. Thank you so much for spending time with us. I have known former Controller Yee for actually a very long time. I used to work for Melissa Fox, and about 15 years ago, and Melissa was one of the very first people to host a party for you. And what I loved about former Controller Yee is that what I loved about Betty was that she literally went to every single county for her campaign. And that is like, I'll never forget it, because I think that is what dedication and resilience looks like. Thank you to Assembly Member Ahrens for my DEI award. But in all seriousness, I'm really truly overwhelmed by this incredible honor, Patrick. I'm blessed to call you a friend, a confidant, and we've been through a lot together, a lot. And while this speech is dedicated to the women in this room, you have been a part of my inspiration for what I want to talk today about, which is resilience.
So thank you, and I will come back to that in just a bit. I want to really start by acknowledging my family. Many of you know my sister, Emily. She's the vice mayor of Mountain View. But what often surprises people is when we tell them that we have another sister, Julia. And if we're being honest, Emily and I aren't even the coolest of the Ramos sisters. Julia, a UCLA graduate, is an award-winning, Grammy-nominated beatboxer, musician, and graphic designer. A member of SAG-AFTRA. She had to move back to the Bay Area during the pandemic when the entertainment industry shut down. Then, with the 6-month strike, she realized it was probably time to pivot, even though she enjoys those royalties. So she went back to community college. Shout out to our community college trustees in the room. And at the urging of our mother, took post-baccalaureate courses, working hard and excelling even harder, and the resilience there paid off. Just a few weeks ago, she is one of only 40 people worldwide accepted into Harvard University's Masters in Design Engineering program. Where she will innovate and lead change despite this administration. Then of course there's Emily. Many people don't know that Emily grew up struggling with a learning disability. I suspect she often felt like something was wrong with her, when in reality she just saw the world differently. While I, as her big sister, loved books and words, Emily's love language was numbers and logic, which good for you. But that's why she pursued engineering at California Maritime Academy, one of the very few women in a predominantly male institution. Later, her passion for tenant protections and technology led her to politics, where people frequently underestimated her. But the resilience she had built over a lifetime kept her moving forward. And so she didn't hesitate when the opportunity for a city council appointment arose. She went on to win the seat in her own right this past November. And now she continues to make enormous impact, ensuring that people have the best chance to be housed. But the Ramos sisters don't exist without the resilience of our parents. Dr. Emiliano Ramos Jr., June, and my mother, Yvonne Ramos, both SEIU, thank you very much. They grew up under the dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos in the Philippines, living under martial law for nearly a decade. They wanted to raise their family in their homeland, but when political icon Ninoy Aquino was assassinated on the tarmac in August of 1983, they knew it was time for my mother, pregnant with me, to leave and join her sisters here in the Bay Area. Their resilience is the only reason why we are all here today. Another woman I really am so honored to uplift today is my boss, Veronica Goey, Grail Family Services. Now, if you've ever met Veronica, you know she always insists that we work together, even though I introduce her as my boss. And that's really because she's dedicated to fostering a professional relationship built on mutual respect. And since joining Grail Family Services a little over a year ago, my brain has expanded tenfold because of her. I learned so much. First, how to listen, how to center families authentically, how to not take things personally as a member of our executive team, and how to be bold and innovative. Veronica talks about this in many forums, but I am so honored to share that she too, like my parents, grew up under a dictatorship in Chile, and came to this country and built a life for herself, her children, her children. She became the executive director of Grail Family Services, leading the organization through recessions, the pandemic, and now the challenges of this federal administration. Thanks to her resilience, GFS stands strong today with an $8.1 million budget and more than 40 dedicated employees, well, 44 dedicated employees. I'm proud to work for an agency founded by women and committed to serving children and families in our historic Mayfair in East San Jose. So thank you to Veronica for being a mentor and a sponsor of me. There are so many people here today that I'm just so grateful for. Each of you have a story of resilience. From my sorority sister, Jess Holtz, who I've known for over 20 years, to Victoria Lowe, Patrick's district director, who I've known for just a few years. You have all shown me what resilience looks like because I have been with you during hard times. And lastly, I want to uplift the staffers in this room. Many of you, though not all, because I see some from my office, are of whom are women. Staffers are resilient. They work long hours to ensure that constituents get the services they need. They are the unseen force around implementing the vision of their elected officials. They don't do it for money. They don't do it for fame. Their lives are not their own for stretches of time. It's okay, you'll get through it. You're resilient. They endure people calling the manager on them, and they enforce when they enforce policies appropriately. And yet they persist because they believe in the mission, in their bosses, and in the commitment to making the world a better place. So I'd like all the staffers to please stand so we can thank you and clap for you. These are challenging times, but I reject the notion that they are unprecedented. My parents, Veronica, they know what it's like to live through moments like these, probably in a worse strait, but we're heading there. And you know, they have never given up. They always saw the other side, and they just kept pressing forward. Some of my closest friends, who I'm constantly strategizing with, looking at Ann and Ellen, because we always have to. We know what it's like for resilience, right? And we kind of started to talk a little bit about things that are happening at each level of government. When the president signed an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education, and our County Office of Education unfortunately had to eliminate the Head Start program, we asked ourselves, who will help these families and who will stand with these workers? So now we look to our very own Patrick Aarons. Patrick, a Head Start graduate, understands firsthand what that program meant for his future. And because of that, he is committed to working with our nonprofit, county, and city leaders like Councilmember Kamei at the City of San Jose to ensure that the program that gave him his first taste of fruit as a child doesn't ever disappear, leaving children and families nowhere to turn. And that, my friends, is what resilience looks like. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angelica, for sharing those words. And I knew that Angelica would not miss a speech as an opportunity for a call to action to help our children and our community, and I'm absolutely committed to making sure we restore that Head Start program. I'd like to also thank, if we can, let's give the amazing servers who are serving us this beautiful lunch a big round of applause. We're passing around my favorite part of a meal, dessert. And as Angelica mentioned, I'm so incredibly grateful to the amazing district office team who's put this luncheon together. They're all here in the back. And I could think of no more qualified and capable leader to lead our district office, to help with events and constituent services and those most in need, to replace me as a district director than Victoria Lowe. And since I knew that women are the most qualified to lead everything, I also have my chief of staff from Sacramento here with me, Mal Yang. Come here, Mal. Come here, Victoria. Come up here. Victoria leads our district office representing 500,000 people and making sure that they get everything from unemployment benefits to throwing these recognition. We have introduced 17 bills, all targeting, helping our most vulnerable children and families, and addressing the most current and pressing issues, addressing poverty in the state of California under her leadership. Thank you. So I can't do this job without the both of you, and like I've said before, I feel like I did not choose you to lead these roles. You've chosen me, and I'm incredibly grateful that you've chosen me to help lead our assembly district. So thank you again. Anyone want to say a few words?
Now you know how it feels.
It's a Patrick tradition.
Thank you so much for filling the room. I'm so grateful that Assemblymember Patrick Aarons is such a strong leader and ally of women. So thank you so much for choosing women leaders to lead your legislative team here. But really, I am now the new Patrick, which these are very big shoes to fill. But please know that if there's anything that is related to the district, you can come to me, or you can come to the other Victoria too, or Khalil. So please know we are here to serve you.
Thank you all for being here, and I am a mom of 2 young girls, and so I always remind my girls that women need a seat at the table, making policy, and so I'm thankful for Patrick for choosing me as chief of staff, and myself setting an example for my girls and for the next generation. And so thank you all for being here.
All right, let's give it up for Mal.